us, but they do not perceive it. These ayahs from Surah Baqarah are not merely historical. They describe a recurring pattern in human history. Those who spread violence often cloak themselves in ceremony in Davos, in Switzerland, with the Hollywood-style extravaganza with US President Donald Trump, where he announced the ratification of the so-called Board of Peace, declaring it an international body. It was supposed to be about Gaza. It was supposed to be about Palestine. Yet Gaza or Palestine was not even mentioned. The genocide that is occurring there was erased. The victims, the Palestinians, were invisible. What is being sold as a board of peace is, in reality, a mechanism, a machinery to manage the aftermath of mass violence, to manage the aftermath. Muslim countries join the charade, which analysts describe not as diplomacy, but as complicity. An administrative role in legitimizing, in reality, this imperial domination, this colonialism or neo-colonialism. A Pakistani academic professor, Junaid Ahmed, exposed the truth. He said that this genocide is reorganized into governance. The resistance is reframed as a security threat, and peace, in inverted commas, becomes a euphemism for control. There is this myth of a rules-based order. The West claims for a long time now this moral superiority about democracy, about our value system, about a law and order, about our civilization, as opposed to the so-called uncivilized brown and black world, which includes the Muslims. But Gaza exposed this lie. Where was this rules-based order when Vietnam, Laos, Cambodia were carpet bombed? When democratically elected governments were overthrown in Iran, in Egypt, in Palestine, in Pakistan, and Chile? Where was this rule-based order when Iraq and Libya were invaded based on absolute complete lies? When Afghanistan and Nigeria and Yemen were bombed? When sanctions were and still are used to starve millions of people? What Gaza did not reveal, Gaza did not reveal the failure of a system, it revealed the system itself. This so-called Board of Peace is really an empire that is rebranded. This is not a Board of Peace. It is a racist board of plunder. It is a colonial board of occupation. It is an imperial board of criminals. It is all of them are operating under the humanitarian language, using words like peace. It is led by an unhinged and unpredictable white supremacist, the 79-year-old Donald Trump, who declares himself as chairman for life, appointing other war criminals and dictators onto the board and offering a permanent membership for $1 billion. France and Germany and Britain declined for now. Canada was disinvited. Netanyahu agreed, but he didn't attend, fearing arrest under the ICC warrant. And this indicates to you that the International Criminal Court and the International Court of Justice is not at the moment working according to the dictates of the United States of America. Hence, they have to develop an alternative body. This Board of Peace, so-called, is governance by money, by immunity, by impunity and power, not justice. Now, if you look at the past history, there is a pattern of genocide. And let us be clear, it's a long tradition within the Western imperial history. You know, when we look at the Western countries, Australia, for example, they massacred and annihilated the Aborigines. The New Zealand crushed the Maoris. Britain starved Bengal. France butchered Algeria. Germany annihilated Namibia. Italy ravaged Libya. Belgium murdered over 10 million people in Congo. The Dutch slaughtered Muslims in Indonesia. Portugal devastated Angola, Mozambique, and Spain annihilated South America and the Philippines. And the list can go on. Even here in South Africa, during the Second Boer War, we learn in our history books, Britain pioneered. They started, they killed over 26,000 women and children on the scabs. There seems to be a tradition in Europe and amongst white European right-wing colonialists, whether they are Protestants or Catholics or atheists or communists, there is a tradition of genocide. And the Zionist genocide in Gaza emanates from the same vile ideological Western ideology. And the resistance of the Palestinians is the same anti-imperial, anti-colonial, anti-apartheid struggle against white supremacists, against white racism, and violent colonizers. This mindset of the West has a name. It's called terra nullius, a land without people. Because you see, black people, when the British went to Australia, there were 6 million indigenous people there, but they didn't matter. Because the dark-skinned people have been dehumanized. They are not human. It is the same Zionist lie that we hear today, a land for a people without land. And this lie that they start is always the first step towards genocide. So we see that Gaza is not an aberration, it's not something abnormal. This genocide in Gaza flows from the same Western ideology. This, what we see today, is not chaos, it is design. The so called Board of Peace will not stop the killing in Gaza because it refuses to address the root cause of the problem. That is what? Theft of Palestinian land, ethnic cleansing, and 78 years of dispossession of apartheid and a siege. We must remember that peace without justice is not peace, it is pacification. What we are witnessing now is the arrival of a post-law world. International law has been bypassed. Justice is selective. And we see this in Ukraine, and we can see what is happening now that he wants to just take over Greenland and even Canada. So justice is selective. Peace is administered by invitation and wealth. In this architecture, Trump presents himself like a pharaoh. He is surrounded by his Hamans and his Karuns. He is deceiving the masses with a spectacle, the media, to brainwash people. But history is clear. When peace is severed, when it is separated from justice, empire, not peace, arrives. So what must we do? What do we do as individuals? Where is our leverage? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in the Quran, in Allah la yughayyiru ma biqawmin hatta yughayyiru ma bi anfusihim. In Surah Rad, it says, indeed Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not change the condition of a people until they change what is within themselves. So, but this change, it begins with your own consciousness. And, that criminal, Benjamin Netanyahu himself admitted that social media is the new battlefield. And that admission matters because it tells us that power, it fears exposure. Power fears that people become conscientized about their injustices. And we have that power and we need to start utilizing it. And it is called by some people digital resistance or screens is not the violence. We see the violence every single day. It is the context in which that violence is taking place. And I have been told, because this is something new to me, but the young people, and I see some of you scrolling on your phones now, this is what we do, is that algorithms decide what is seen. This silence that we hear is being engineered. The attention scan is being weaponized. And every like that we put onto our social media, every share, every comment is transmitted by a signal. So likes, if you likes, shares create credibility, and comments expand each reach. A silent post, it dies. An engaged post, it travels. This is not vanity that I had so many likes and comments. This is circulation, but we need to do it in a way that we spread relevant material. And this is what we call digital resistance. It is something now that we need to start doing, and it's called not by bombs, but narrative warfare, and that is each individual's responsibility. All of us have smartphones. The Western power no longer relies only on bombs, it relies on narrative dominance. This is why initiatives like Upscroll has come into being. It is founded by a Palestinian who was born in Jordan, lives now in Australia, and he saw his own family, 60 people of them, that were killed in Gaza, and he left his job and he went onto this platform because he worked and he knew about technology, and he started exposing how truth is buried. He saw how the truth is buried while lies were amplified. So he started this. It's called Upscroll. And I think, inshallah, we must go onto it instead of TikTok, instead of the other social media. Let's make a note of this Upscroll. And this is why we at the Media Review Network exist. That digital space, we believe, is the modern member. This struggle, brothers, it cannot be outsourced. There is an African proverb that that states the following: until the lions have their historians, the story of the hunt will always glorify the hunt. Have the narrative. We need to change that because we are the victims. We need to give our own narrative. Narrative warfare is now a formal pillar of modern conflict. Lies, we know, travel faster than corrections. Outrage outpaces the truth, but silence is interpreted as consent, and we can no longer remain silent. It is this Western world that is led by America and Israel and the corrupt and cowardly, illegitimate Muslim and Arab despots that have gathered, they say, a very formidable army, a military force that is now in the so-called Persian Gulf, and they are intent on disarming and destroying the resistance from Hamas, from Jihad, from Hezbollah, from Ansarullah, they call them Houthis, the PIC, the Iranians as well. Brothers, Gaza did not expose weakness, it exposed the truth. And the truth is that peace without justice is oppression, that silence is complicity, and that awareness is resistance. They threatened the excess of resistance with a mighty military force. And the response of the committed Muslims, the believers, and I quote this ayat, is from Surah Al-Imran. The ayah, and I'll just translate it in English, that those who were told, your enemies have gathered, and we see this on CNN, on BBC, on Al Jazeera, that we have got the American fleet now, and you're completely surrounded. And yes, they are. America has 800 military bases spread throughout the world, and the surrounding parts that have now infiltrated within and surrounding the resistance movements are there to decimate the resistance. But what does the excess of resistance say? And I quote this ayat of the Quran. It says, those who were told your enemies were gathered. And this is from Surah Al Imran, ayah 173. Those who were told your enemies have gathered against you, so fear them. But it only increased them in faith. They said, those who were in the target, the believers said, Allah is sufficient for us, and He is the best disposer of affairs. وَقَالُوا حَسْبُنَا اللَّهُ وَنِعْمَ الْوَكِيلُ وَآخِرُ دَعْوَانَا إِنَّ الْحَمْدُ لِلَّهِ رَبِّ الْعَالَمِينَ.
الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن محمد رسول الله. أشهد أن محمد رسول الله. حي على الصلاة. حي على الصلاة. حي على الفلاح. حي على الفلاح. الله أكبر الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله.
الحمد لله الذي امتن على عباده بنبيه المرسل صلى الله عليه وسلم وكتابه المنزل، حتى اتسع على أهل الأفكار طريق الاعتبار بما فيه من القصص والأخبار، واتضح به سلوك المنهج القويم والصراط المستقيم بما فصل فيه من الأحكام وفرق بين الحلال والحرام. ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، ونشهد أن سيدنا ونبينا ومولانا محمد عبده ورسوله الذي نزل الفرقان عليه ليكون للعالمين نذيرا، صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وأصحابه الذين تذكروا بالقرآن وذكروا به الناس تذكيرا. أما بعد، فقد قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم: خيركم من تعلم القرآن وعلمه. وقال عليه الصلاة والسلام: يقال لصاحب القرآن: اقرأ وارتق ورتل كما كنت ترتل في الدنيا، فإن منزلك عند آخر آية تقرأها. وقال عليه الصلاة والسلام: من قرأ حرفا من كتاب الله فله حسنة، والحسنة بعشر أمثالها. وقال عليه الصلاة والسلام: من قرأ القرآن فاستظهره فأحل حلاله وحرم حرامه